Fun, friendly, iconic Christmas characters. We have Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph, Dasher, Prancer, whatever, all of the reindeer, and more. But what would life really be if everything was figgy pudding, gumdrops, gingerbread, and eggnog? What would life be without the bad? What would Christmas, a holiday symbolizing peace, love, family, and togetherness, be without the creepy Christmas creatures, sinister souls, and meddling monsters? A witch that slits bellies open, removing their stomach and organs, replacing it with pebbles and straw, is just one of the creatures we will be discussing in this podcast. From Iceland to France to Australia to other countries across the globe, children will hear stories about devilish dark demons and beasts in an attempt to eradicate their bad behavior. But are these monsters just legends passed around for centuries? Or is there some truth to these sinister stories? Why do so many countries tell tales of these corrupt creatures? In this podcast, we will be discussing evil legends and monsters of different cultures, and reading some terrifying stories of their actions. But before I get any further into this video, I just wanted to ask you guys to please consider subscribing to this channel because we post videos every single week. Here on Cauldron Convos, we post videos on the spine-chilling, conspiracy, paranormal topics that you definitely want to hear about. We aim to entertain, educate, and obviously make you laugh, or try to. So please hit that subscribe button. It would mean so much to us. My name is Kayla, and this is Cauldron Convos, baby. Pull the lever, Kronk! Feces frenzy again! Oh no, too much!
Your feces frenzy blew the smoke everywhere.
Oh, sorry. As a heads up, we did a full podcast on the Krampus. Arguably the most famous of these Christmas evil monsters and legends. So if you are interested in learning anything about the Krampus, aka half demon, half goat creature that beats children with a birch rod and then eats them
In the 9th layer of hell.
Yeah, please make sure to watch that video, but after this video, because we have a lot of crazy creatures.
We also have another video coming out next week on the Victorian era ghost stories.
Don't you just love how we're all of different nationalities, but for some reason, we all have some messed up Christmas monsters? Now, the first Christmas creature we're going to be talking about, we referenced in the introduction before. Her name is Frau Perchta. Now, Frau Perchta is told mostly in Austria and Germany, and is a tale about a witch that hands out rewards and punishments during the 12 days before Christmas. And she's said to also check to make sure young girls have completed their spinning work, which is super random, but sure, go for it.
Not like Peloton
Frau.
spinning.
Yes. Imagine. Ladies.
That's like the new Peloton
Have you
instructor.
hit your 100th ride?
Yeah.
It's Frau.
Hello, Frau. Schnell. Like she's yelling.
Pick it up, ladies! Perchta's story is thought to have come from a goddess in Alpine paganism, specifically in the Upper German and Austrian region of the Alps. There's some discussion on which goddess she came from exactly, but one theory is it is the goddess of nature. The goddess of nature tends to the forest most of the year and deals with humans only during Christmas time. Perchta is usually described as elderly and haggard, wearing tattered clothing with a wrinkled face, a long hooked nose, and disheveled hair.
Sounds like your mom.
Oh no! Most notably, she is said to have one large foot, sometimes called a goose foot or a swan foot. The bunions. And this foot has been said to be the one that works the treadle, or basically a pedal of a sewing machine. So she's kind of associated with sewing.
So does she slit them open and sew them back up?
Not Soul Cycle. Huh? Oh, I don't even know if that's part. Oh, I guess that might be part of it. But in celebrations, Perchta may show up in processions during Fastnacht, the Alpine festival just before Lent. Now, there may be some connection between Frau Perchta and the Italian witch La Befana, but La Befana isn't really a monster. She's
La Befana, you know?
Oh.
La Befana,
Yeah,
the witch, you know?
Have you ever met La Befana, the witch? Yeah, we take her
she
down
gonna come
Latino's
fuck you up.
Pizzeria. Yeah, we go on North Avenue. That's where she's at. She's an ugly witch, yes, but she's actually a good witch who leaves presents. So poor girl, she's just ugly, but still nice. If you're gonna be ugly, you might as well be mean with it.
Yep.
Yep.
Like your mom.
Oh my god, no! As I said, Perchta hands out rewards and punishments during the 12 days of Christmas. So she would know if children or servants behaved and worked hard all year round. If they did, they would receive a small silver coin the next day in a shoe or a pail. But if they didn't, she would slice their stomachs open, rip out their organs, and stuff it back up with things like garbage. Why even stuff it? Just leave it at, like, what's the point? Maybe she, like, needs to put things away.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, where do I put my garbage? And she's like, oh, here.
Children's stomachs.
Yeah. But also it's funny because all of these stories and legends, the gift that they would receive if they're well behaved isn't even that great.
It's like
a
walnuts.
coin, one coin. Yeah, it's like walnuts and oranges, or like leave your shoe out for like a piece of candy.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're gonna get eaten alive. It's like,
yeah,
what?
So it's like, okay, like at least offer them something better.
Yeah, find the middle ground too.
Yeah, jeez. Be like Americans where you get like 10 Lego sets, I don't know, some slime.
That reminds me of the guy in the Bronx. It was Halloween and he was gonna get mugged. So this guy, he was walking down the street and a guy in like a ski mask comes up and he's like, do you want to get egged or do you want to get mugged? And he's like, egged. So the guys proceeded to pelt this kid with eggs and then they mugged him.
Yeah, so it's like, really? Why ask? Now let's move on to a different Christmas legend, but for some reason similarly. Now let's move on to a different Christmas legend, but for some reason similarly. Similarly. Now let's move on to a different Christmas legend that similarly convinces kids to spin their own clothes, but is actually known in Iceland, a country I visited this year, so I'm so happy to be talking about the Yule Cat. The Icelandic Yule Cat, also known as the Christmas Cat and Jólakötturinn, is a huge and vicious cat who lurks around the snowy Icelandic countryside around Christmas time. This cat, similar to the Krampus, eats children, but just specifically children who have not received any new clothes to wear before Christmas Eve, which is so sad. Like, people can't control that. Like, how are you supposed to control if you've received new clothes, especially if you're a kid? Like, begging
like
your
poor
mom,
kid.
Please, any piece of clothing. I don't want to be eaten by the Yule Cat. But the Yule Cat is owned by something arguably worse. Her name is Grilla, an enormous giant with a horrendous appearance. Very old poems of Grilla describes her as a parasitic beggar and asks parents to give her their disobedient children. Parasitic beggar. What a diss.
Yeah, that's like gypsy, but like even more hurtful.
Parasitic is just like, ooh, it's
going to infect you.
Yeah.
With its begging.
In modern day, Grilla comes down from the mountains of Iceland into the towns and cities to look for misbehaved children to essentially eat them.
Well, I'm so glad you were well behaved in Iceland, I guess. You didn't get eaten.
I know. Oh my God. But I wasn't there for Christmas. So.
True.
Now, she comes out looking for me. Here is a random part of Grilla's lore. Grilla has been married 3 times despite her ugliness.
Sounds like my grandma.
Oh no, she really has been married 3 times. Her third husband, Lepalud something, there's Icelandic letters that I don't know what they are, is said to be living with her in their cave in the Dimmoborgir lava fields with the big black Yule Cat and their sons. Her husband is lazy and mostly stays at home in their cave. Also sounds like my mom. Now we're going to be talking about the Belsnickel.
Belsnickel. It was actually popularized by Dwight in The Office, dressing up as the Belsnickel.
Oh, yeah.
And he always go, cheer or fear, cheer or fear, cheer or fear, cheer or fear.
I forgot.
So we're going to go with fear, because the Belsnickel is pretty freaking crazy. Now, the Belsnickel is a German folklore creature originating from the Palatinate region of Europe. It is supposed to be a servant of St. Nick. What a true saint. St. Nick with all of his servants.
I
The
know,
Krampus, the Belsnickel. And most of his servants are like bad. Like they beat people up. It's like he has no good servants. I mean,
because he probably doesn't treat them well.
Yeah, true. Okay, anyway.
What a saint.
The German word Bels means fur, and nickel translates to Nicholas, so it's, fur Nicholas. The Belsnickel is said to have worn fur, torn, dirty clothes, and sometimes wears deer's antlers. The Belsnickel visits children before Christmas time to assess whether or not they deserve treats or discipline for their behavior. Of course he has to bring something with him if they're naughty, so what else would he bring but a switch? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I've been so naughty, Belsnickel. Like there's probably a whole cult of like German club guys. They're like, I've been so bad. I've been so schlecht this year. Please spank me with the switch. Oops. Tut mir leid. Yeah, it's like me accidentally tripping during the Krampus Lauf.
Oh, yes.
So a little bit of an extra spanking for free. Anywho, when the Belsnickel gets to a child's home, he asks them questions or makes them sing a song. In exchange, he throws cakes, candies, and nuts onto the floor. If the children dive greedily for the treats or can't recount their good behavior throughout the year, the Belsnickel will threaten to swat their hands, their back, or their butt with the switch. In addition to places in Germany, the Belsnickel is also preserved in Pennsylvania Dutch communities and Brazilian German communities. And they actually originally brought the idea from these parts of Germany to Indiana. Was its first implantation in the United States.
Now the next creatures are Greek goblins, gnomes, or elves, known as the Kallikantzari. These creatures come up to the surface of the earth during the 12 days of Christmas as well, from the end of December when the sun will not move again until the 6th of January. Epiphany, where they cause all sorts of trouble and mischief. They actually aren't only known in Greece, but are usually a part of some Southeast European and Anatolian folklore stories, also found in Bulgaria, Turkey, Serbia, Albania, Bosnia, and Cyprus. Now this one is unique because besides behaving, there are other things to ward off the Kallikantzari. One way you can ward them off is leaving a colander on your doorstep to trick them. It's believed that since these creatures could not count above 2, 3 was believed to be a holy number. The Kallikantzari would supposedly take a long walk off of a short bridge, if you know what I mean. The Kallikantzari would sit at the doorstep all night, counting each hole of the colander until the sun rose and it was forced to hide. That's kind of sad and messed up, but okay.
I like it, you know?
It's kind of funny. It's like an anti-demon type thing. It's like a stupid demon.
Yeah.
But it would only count to 2.
Yeah.
So it'd be 1.
I don't get it. Yeah,
2,
I guess there's different versions of the story here.
2, 1, 2 all night.
It is also a tradition in some cultures to throw lukumads, a donut-like dessert filled with syrup, and sausages on your roof and sing a specific song.
I think I'm going to go dressed up as the Kallikantzari this year.
Donut and sausages. Oh, to eat the donuts and sausages.
Yeah,
on
imagine.
roofs.
Ooh, a sausage in a donut hole.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa. Or a
kinda
Krispy Kreme
sausage.
bun with a sausage in it.
It is believed that once this is done, the Kallikantzari will eat these and leave, returning to their work underground because they're, these gnome-type creatures. Another super successful method of protection from the Kallikantzari was to leave the fire burning in the fireplace all night so they could not enter through it. Sometimes people would burn a Yule log for the duration of the 12 days. That's not fire safety, everyone. In other households, people would throw foul-smelling shoes into the fire as the stench was believed to repel the creature.
Wow, we could probably fuel this fire for all 12 days with just your mom's shoes. Just her black boots alone.
But ew, why would you want your house to stink just to ward these things off?
Well, it's better than getting eaten by the Kallikantzari.
They don't eat them, right? Do they eat people? No, I think they just mess around. They just cause trouble and mischief.
No horseplay in the house.
I don't know. Who wants
horseplay in the house?
Who wants stinky smelling house?
I had this bus driver. She used to go, "No horseplay on the bus," and we wouldn't be doing anything. She would just go, "No horseplay on the bus." She was Filipino, God bless her soul, but no horseplay on the bus.
Additional ways to keep these creatures away included marking one's door with a black cross on Christmas Eve and burning incense. See, the incense thing I get, the smelly shoes in the fireplace, I don't get. But you know what? Maybe the Kallikantzari or whatever will get me. And this one's intense. According to legend, any child born during the 12 days of Christmas was in danger of transforming into a Kallikantzari during each Christmas season, starting with adulthood. It was believed that the antidote to prevent this transformation was to bind the baby in tresses of garlic or straw, or to singe the child's toenails. According to another legend, anyone born on a Saturday could see and talk with the Kallikantzari. Darn, I was born on a Monday. So the Kallikantzari, looking like a gnome, is actually similar to another creature we're talking about today called the Nisse.
It's a Nordic mythological creature that's associated with folklore with the winter solstice as well as Christmas. Nisses are described as short with long white beards and wearing a conical knit caps, like a dunce cap.
I think so.
I love that.
Like a gnome hat.
Oh, I love gnomes.
Or like Hermes' hat.
Hermie, I love you, Hermie. And they're said to look similar to gnomes. They are part of Scandinavian folklore and have actually appeared in a lot of Scandinavian literature. These creatures actually aren't that harmful, though. They usually knock on doors and hand out presents. This is like the anti-Krampus.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a legend that you're supposed to give the Nisses gifts, the traditional one being a bowl of porridge on Christmas Eve. And if he isn't given this porridge, he may do some mischievous things, such as tying cows' tails together in their barn.
Yes, and I also saw that if they don't put butter on the porridge, like a specific size butter, They'll also do some
I
crazy stuff.
love that porridge. It's like Oliver Twist.
It's like the porridge has to be just right, like Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Whoa. I love all this like folklore, you know.
They all tie in.
Like
It's
the
a
cow's
fetish
tails.
thing.
True. Folklorists. Ripley's Believe It or Not website, which I didn't know it was a thing, actually calls the next creature possibly the worst of all, and that is Hans Trapp. In one story, Hans Trapp stabbed a child, sliced him into tiny pieces, and cooked and ate his flesh.
Is Hans Trapp Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes. Hans Trapp is actually inspired by a real person, not Jeffrey Dahmer, a knight named Hans von Trotha who lived from 1450 to 1503. And Hans von Trotha actually got in a dispute with the church, which eventually led him to be excommunicated by the Pope in real life. Hans Trapp is actually a Christmas scarecrow that is known in the French regions of Alsace and Lorraine. According to the legend, Hans Trapp lived in the 1400s as a rich and powerful man who was feared by the people of Alsace. He desired power so much that he resorted to deals with the devil to enhance it. As a result, the Pope excommunicated himself, Hans Trapp, banishing him and confiscating his wealth and land. So I guess the similarity between the two stories is that they were both excommunicated. Well, one being the fake story and one being the real story. They were both excommunicated by the Pope, but there's no proof to show that the real Hans von Trapp or whatever actually like ate children or stabbed them or anything.
I
That
hope
was just
not.
added.
Jeez.
Yeah. But to be fair to Hans Trapp, he earned that money, you know? Like, just because he's excommunicated by the Pope, you think he, like, can just lose his money and land? They can just take it away? Yeah, just for what? Being a Satanist? Just for dancing with the devil a little bit?
A little doodly-doo with the devil.
So what happened was Hans Trapp had to then make a makeshift home in the mountains of Bavaria. This is where he started desiring human flesh, which reminds me of the Wendigo or Wendigo psychosis, which is something that we talk about in our Native American podcast. If you're interested in that one, I'll put it in the description, put it over here, put it everywhere, because it's a good one. And there's actually a psychosis called Wendigo psychosis. So I wonder if this is why he started desiring human flesh. Maybe he had it. So he had this urge to taste human flesh and wanted to make a plan to get his food easily. He dressed up in disguise as a scarecrow and would wait on desolate roads for victims to drive by or walk by. Now, how the story goes is a poor boy was walking by Trapp, and stabbed
Trapp's Trap.
Trap house.
I
This
bet
is Trap house.
Trapp's Trap House.
Trapp's trap house in the mountains.
Where he cooks children.
And he stabbed the boy with a sharp stick. Trapp took the boy's body to his lair, sliced it into pieces, and roasted it. However, before he finally could taste human flesh, he was struck by a lightning bolt and died.
Imagine you
You're like,
waste
finally,
that. What a
so
waste
hungry.
of food.
I know.
People are starving.
People are wasteful these days. How could you not? Today, naughty children are warned that Hans Trapp's spirit lingers on and that he may visit them in his scarecrow disguise if they don't mend their ways.
In addition to Hans von Trapp being French, Père Fouettard is another French creature. Père Fouettard, he's a French Christmas creature. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. And this guy's another buddy of St. Nicholas that goes around on December 6th doing his rounds. And this is just like the Krampus, where he beats children or gives them gifts on whether or not they've been good or bad. He is known mainly in the far north and eastern regions of France and South Belgium. The quote-unquote whipping father was said to bring a whip with him to spank all of the naughty children who misbehaved. Again, this is another one where I think I'm going to have to be naughty.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next creature is actually a group of 13 creatures, also from Iceland, similar to the Yule Cat, and they're called the Yule Lads.
Are you sure this isn't the party from The Hobbit, 13 Dwarfs?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's 13 of them?
There's 13.
Oh, maybe that's how it was inspired by. Luckily, the Yule Lads aren't too evil. They don't eat children or slit anyone's stomachs open, but the 13 of them do take turns visiting children at nighttime, the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. Now, the children will put shoes on their windowsills, expecting candy in them in the morning. Well, if they're well behaved, because if they aren't, the Yule Lad will fill their shoe with rotting potatoes. In this lore, there's all this like shoe, foot, smell, potato. Like, what is going on? You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of like strong aromas.
They always have to leave their shoes out. Like, what's up with that? Or the Yule Lads, they have a foot fetish. They sniff in the shoes. They each take in turns. They're like, okay, I get this night, you get that night.
Maybe that's why Saint Nick is a foot freak.
Is he?
Maybe he wants your shoes.
Maybe that's why that Frau Perchta has the goose swan foot. Now, I'd rather have the Yule Lads visit me than Frau Perchta or Père Fouettard or Krampus, but apparently the Yule Lads actually used to be a ton more creepy and not as innocent. In 1746, though, parents in Iceland were banned from tormenting their kids with the Yule Lads, so that's why, it got a little safer recently with the potatoes and the shoes. But the 13 Yule Lads had their own thing, like the 7 dwarves, each having their own personality. The National Museum of Iceland describes dozens of different names for the Yule Lads appear in different folk tales and stories. A popular poem about the Yule Lads by the late Johannes, which first appeared in the book Jólin Koma, Christmas is Coming, in 1932, served to make their names and number much better known. The names of the 13 Yule Lads that most Icelanders know today are all derived from that poem. Today, as the museum describes, the Yule Lads are Sheep Kot Klod. He tries to suckle ewes in farmers' sheep sheds.
Golly gawk. Gawk gawk. He steals foam from buckets of cow's milk.
Just the foam, leaves the milk. Ew.
No milk, just foam.
Stubby. He's short and steals food from frying pans.
Spoon licker. He licks spoons.
Pot scraper, aka pot licker. He steals unwashed pots and licks them clean. Ew.
Ooh, sign me up. Bowl licker. He steals bowls of food from under the bed. Back in the old days, Icelanders would sometimes store bowls of food under there. Convenient for midnight snacking?
Me in high school when I used to store Domino's boxes of lava cakes
Don't
and pizza.
tell people that.
Why? Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Every hero has its backstory. Every hero has its origin story.
It's not like Batman used to eat lava cakes and put them under your bed.
Now, door slammer. He stomps around and slams doors, keeping everyone awake.
Skier gobbler. He eats up all the Icelandic yogurt. Skier.
Sausage swiper. He loves stolen sausages.
Window peeper. He likes to creep outside people's windows and sometimes steal stuff from when he sees inside.
The window peeper and the sausage swiper work together. The door sniffer. He has a huge nose and an insatiable appetite for stolen baked goods.
Meat hook. He snatches up any left out meat, especially smoked lamb. Oh, I'm so hungry.
So, do Icelandic kids, are they we gotta get the meat hook tonight? Let's specifically leave out smoked lamb to catch that Yule lad? Probably not, but if you're an Icelandic kid, comment down below.
We love you.
Yeah. How do you say hi in Iceland?
Candle beggar. He steals candles, which used to be sought-after items in Iceland.
Okay, then why is his name Candle Beggar? He doesn't beg, he's stealing them. Don't even beg if you steal, just steal. Now, many of these legends have been controversial in some ways because parents wanted to ban them, like in Iceland, to stop tormenting their children. However, the most controversial Christmas folklore character of them all is Zwarte Piet, also known in English as Black Pete. Now, Zwarte Piet isn't actually evil and does not harm children, but we thought it would be important to include because of how controversial he is and the evil origin of the creation of him. Now, Zwarte Piet is said to be a companion of Saint Nicholas, like all of these creatures. Why are they all companions?
They all hang out with Saint Nick. Dude, Saint Nick's got a weird crew.
Yeah, servants and all these people.
Krampus, demons, goblins.
That would be a good movie. All of these creatures.
Like a funny movie?
Yeah, like a kid's funny movie. They're all just misunderstood.
Oh, yeah. And it's like an animation?
Yeah.
Live action be a little creepy.
No, definitely not live action.
Like the Grinch style animation of the new Grinch movie.
Yes.
And they've got, he's a bad banana.
Zwarte Piet appears in the 2 weeks leading up to the feast of Saint Nicholas, and he is tasked with amusing children and giving sweets to those who come to meet the saint as he visits schools, stores, and other places. While Sinterklaas, portrayed as an elderly white man, arrives by ship and rides a white horse through parades across Netherlands, hundreds of adults and children dress up as his helper, Zwarte Piet, wearing blackface, painted large red lips, and black curly wigs, and some with large golden earrings.
I think historically, Zwarte Piet was a chimney sweep for St. Nick.
In 2015, the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination wrote in a report that the character of Black Pete is sometimes portrayed in a manner that reflects negative stereotypes of people of African descent and is experienced by many people of African descent as a vestige of slavery, and urged the Netherlands to actively promote the elimination of racial stereotyping.
Yeah, if you Google Black Peter, it's just why? Mm-hmm. Why?
And there are actually a lot of protests that happen while these parades or festivals are occurring, where it's anti-Black Peter people.
Yeah.
And then the people
Pro
that are
Black
dressed
Peter.
up as them, and they get crazy.
Those are just the people trying to piss people off, like the people that dress as Black Peter.
Oh, yeah.
Not the other G's.
Geoffrey Afri, along with Quincy Carrillo, was one of the two founders of the Zwarte Piet is Racism campaign in 2011. Afri arrived in the Netherlands from Ghana when he was just 10. They would call me Zwarte Piet, or you are just dirty like Zwarte Piet. You are only good to be Zwarte Piet. Until then, he thought the Sinterklaas festivities were just about fun and collecting sweets. He also stated, I was a child and not politically aware, but I realized we played this dress up with this character who is dumb, who is silly, who doesn't know much, who needs someone to lead the way, who keeps messing up, who is looking very ugly, and then realizing that I am the butt of the joke. I was 12 years old when I realized it. So I was like, hold on, this thing that I thought was fun seems to be that I am the star of this play without knowing it, and definitely not the role I want to have. On the bus, people would throw those candies they make for Sinterklaas season. They would throw it at you, making monkey sounds. So that was just one person's story of being in the Netherlands as a African-American person during the time of this kind of festival that they have around Christmas time.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty messed up tradition.
Yeah. And it came from a book. I would suggest no one dress up as Zwarte Piet. You shouldn't do it. It's not great. As you can see from this man who lives in the Netherlands, it has negatively affected him, and it's just not okay. So don't do it.
Yeah, people have to ruin everything.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let Christmas be
Just
Christmas.
stick to the Krampus.
Just stick to the Yule Lads that lick bowls, the bowl licker.
Yeah, bowl licker. He's
or the
harmless.
Sausage stealer, whatever his
The
name
meat
was.
hooker.
Meat hooker. He's hooking meats. Slinging and
Is he
slinging.
from the South?
All of my people are from. Why do so many of these countries have such messed up legends focused on Christmas? Is it because, parents want their kids to behave specifically around Christmas time because they know they're spending a lot of money on them, they're buying them a lot of gifts? Also, parents have to spend more time, I think, with their children because holidays, the kids have time off from school.
I think that it just has to do with people wanting their kids to behave.
Yeah.
When you have family over, when you're doing stuff together.
Yeah. When I used to babysit, I think in the months before December, I would always be like, don't you want Santa to, bring you some toys? And don't you want to behave?
You should have just given them a lesson of some reality. Like, Santa's not real.
Krampus. Do you want to learn about...
Santa's not real, but the Krampus is.
Yeah, or Frau Perchta.
Yeah, she's going to slit your belly open and stuff you with garbage and sew you back up.
Do people say you have to be good for the Easter Bunny? No, right?
Probably in my house.
In my
I feel like my parents used to say that.
Each month there's a new character that you have to...
Yeah, then it was your birthday.
Cupid. If you want Cupid to not shoot you with an arrow on your butt.
Jeez.
What?
I just never thought of that before. All these characters are mostly German.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Germanic in origin, which is interesting.
As we said before, there's all that shoe stuff, the foot stuff.
Each one of them has a foot description.
Yes.
Like the Krampus has a nice foot description.
There's also
Frau.
the two similarities with the sewing one. I guess that was just
it's all you did back in the day.
Yeah.
There's not much to do.
There are a few gnome ones. So why are there so many similarities amongst these different cultures?
That's an anthropology question.
Yeah. Is it word of mouth where there's a traveler and then he tells a story somewhere else and then it kind of gets crafted and molded with the cultures stuff for example the foods of the culture or the environment of the culture.
Multiple of these legends and stories, they're all helpers of him and they all provide punishment like the Belsnickel, the Krampus,
You're basically saying that because there's similarities amongst different cultures, it's not because any of these creatures exist.
Dun dun dun.
Or do they? If there was one of these that would be the most realistic, I think it would be Frau Perchta.
Yeah, just an old German lady in the woods that
There's
eats
probably
children.
someone out there that eats children. So if
Yeah,
you want to
Hansel
tell your
and
kids
Gretel.
that. And the last question, is it okay to torment your children with these stories to behave? Honestly,
I think so.
It's up to you.
I think kids are too soft nowadays.
Oh my gosh. But do you think this ever can affect people subconsciously?
Psychologically?
Yeah.
No.
Well, maybe not specifically oh, I'm so scared of goose feet. It's not a specific thing that people are maybe a fear of gnomes. There's probably someone that has a fear of gnomes because of their parents being a gnome's gonna get you or whatever, their niece is gonna get you or whoever. But do you think if a kid knows about all these legends and thinks they're real, they'll just be more fearful in their adult life? Like they'll have more anxiety.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Speaking from personal experience.
So I guess it's really up to a parent on how they want to
approach these topics.
I would hope that my kids wouldn't misbehave in the first place, that I don't need to threaten them with anything, because there was like some psychology thing that if you reward your kids with good things when they do well, so for example, if they get good grades, if you give them stuff, then they're always going to expect stuff and want stuff and not do things if they don't see like a reward, like a physical reward.
I think that's what happened to me.
If you have to threaten them to behave, when you run out of things to threaten them with, they're not going to behave. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's podcast of Cauldron Convos on the spooky creatures of Christmas. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below, because we reply to every comment. And without further ado, this potion has been brewed. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and other holidays as well. Bye.